Hey, XSRT here. This is my first vid, so constructive criticisms are welcome. Excuse my crappy picture. It's the only camera I could get my hands on. Hopefully together, you and I will watch me improve through this video blog. I'm pretty eccentric, or at least that's what they would call me if I was rich instead of calling me crazy. My videos will vary widely in subject. They will all be my point of view and always honest, like it or not. So, here we go. So you've decided to try the e-cig thing so you can quit smoking regular cigarettes. You have been seeing the commercials or seeing the kiosks in the mall and you want to know more. First, a disclaimer or two. I am a respiratory therapist who smoked for close to 20 years. I started using a personal vaporizer in October 2010. Personal vaporizer, or PV, is what we call e-cigs in our little subculture to separate us from the analog cig industry. Analog is another vapor slang term along with vapor, which is what we call ourselves. The PV is not meant for smoking cessation. It is called harm reduction. It is not good for you, just better than analogs. In e-juice, which is what we put in the cartridge or other juice holding device, more on that later, is either propylene glycol, PG, not antifreeze, that was ethylene glycol, switched to PG because it is non-toxic, or vegetable glycerin, or a combination of the two. Some people have a PG sensitivity. It has nicotine in different doses per milliliter based on what you need. Most new vapors are good with 24 milligrams or less. Now compare that with analogs. You've surely heard of the 4,000 chemicals. Amazingly, from my research, those are the ones they have released. Like I said, not good, but better. Okay, so first things first. You can save money, in theory. The initial investment can be the price of a carton or less. As long as you do not like new technology or shiny fun things, after your initial investment, things can get very inexpensive. By my estimate, the average vapor goes through 1 to 2 milliliters a day. I personally try not to pay more than 50 cents per milliliter with a 30 milliliter bottle that is $15 every 2 weeks. Sounds good so far. I'm pretty sure that is like 2 days of smoking analogs max. Juices are a funny thing. People say taste is subjective. True to a point. I prefer tobacco flavors. It took me forever to accept that that was okay. Now for that reason, I don't care for most sweet dessert or candy flavors. It does not mean that I would not think they taste good, but I prefer not to vape them, so a review on them will be rare. Find a good vendor for your juice and always have enough. You are trading a horrific addiction for a far less harmful one. But much like caffeine, it is still an addiction and you do not want to run short. Order enough, order more before you run out. There are a lot of good vendors out there, and I will be happy to recommend them if you want to contact. The only vendor I send new people to is gotvapes.com. They have always had great customer service, and they are always on the hunt for the next improvement in equipment. They sell batteries, juice holders, and juice, along with some other fun toys. I've had their tobacco juices, which actually finally let me leave analogs altogether. Let's start with batteries. There are auto and manual. Auto batteries tend to have an LED on the tip that lights up when you draw on it. They are generally smaller and have more of an analog feel to them. Many people start with these to help transition away from analogs. I personally went with the biggest manual battery I could find. With manual batteries, you have to push a button to start the atomizer. The trade-off is the manual battery holds a charge longer. Bigger battery equals longer battery life. You also have to remember that most people, when they start, get used to that button really fast. It almost becomes natural within an hour of using it. There are devices out there to assist with the charging of auto batteries. This really is a personal decision, but the vast majority eventually move to manual as their primary PV. So, you have your battery and juice. Not doing much good, is it? You need something to hold that juice. These juice holders are called cartridges or carts, cartomizer or carto, and there are tanks. There are many variations on these devices. I'm only going to go through them briefly. The carts have a filler in a hollow case that you saturate with e-juice. You insert the cart into an atomizer. By the way, an atomizer is the device that heats the juice. Quickly, there are different types of atomizers. There are regular, low resistance, and high voltage. For starting, regular or low resistance will be good. The big difference is how it feels when you inhale or the throat hit. Some say it affects flavor, but I've never noticed that. Okay, So with carts you need an atomizer. Cartos are another device with filler, but they have the atomizer built into the filler. An all-in-one device, if you will. Both of these holders hold anywhere from 1 to 2 milliliters, sometimes less, sometimes more. The atomizers themselves have a tendency to be more hardy and can last quite a while with proper care. The cartomizers I've had are great, but I cannot seem to keep them going as long as other devices. There's a technique called dry burning that can help make an atomizer last longer. We can talk about that in just a minute. I want to quickly go over my favorite type of device. I love the tanks. They hold enough juice that I never have to top off, and they are as close to dripping as I've gotten. Another subject that we haven't gotten to. There are a myriad of different types of tanks. The best one I've gotten from Got Vapes is the Fluximizer. There is a learning curve, but all you have to do is email or call the guys there and they will walk you through it. Let's talk about drip tips. These are little mouthpieces in different shapes and materials that are more comfortable on your mouth. There are also different connectors. On the batteries, you will see things about 510, 808, and other connectors. I've used the two I mentioned and they're both good. 510 seems to be the most common. There are a couple proprietary connectors. I stay away from them just because there are less options for carts. Dry burning is a technique to help lengthen the time of your atomizer. I personally rinse my tank or atomizer with distilled water. I stay away from tap water as it makes my wicks brittle. After rinsing, I connect to the battery, it has to be manual, and run the atomizer without juice for about 8 seconds. I continue this until the coils on the atomizer glow red and the wick turns white. Some people find it necessary to clean the coil with a metal tool, with the battery disconnected, of course. I've never had to do that though. Although this technique does work, you're at risk for popping or killing your atomizer. This is why we always have backup for everything. Now, as far as dripping, a lot of people will say dripping is the best way to vape. I personally don't do it just because it is too much work for me and I like things easy. Dripping, direct dripping, or DD is simply dripping 3 to 4 drips of e-juice directly on your atomizer and vaping until you feel you need more or get a burnt taste. You will understand and know the term burnt taste after the first time you get it. With all that being said, this advice is simply a jumping off point. There are mods, high voltage, low resistance, variable voltage, blah, blah, blah. There are several good communities for you to go to learn and share in this journey. They all have different personalities. You will find the one you like. They tend to be called forums. This is a fun journey to be a little healthier. It can for sure become a hobby, and if you let it, an expensive hobby. If you're good with electronics or mechanical things or chemistry, this can also be an opportunity to help your fellow man and make a little cash. Mainly, I want to say enjoy yourself and hang in there until you find what works for you.